Welcome, everyone, to this week's episode of the Minnesota Rockstars podcast. And today, I surprise Andrew Ruckert with a podcast. He has no clue that we're going to be doing this podcast, but I surprise him with it. We're actually heading up to Detroit Lakes, Minnesota, for a big country music festival, We Fest, which we work up there. We are considered the water boys. We go around and we fill up people's campers with water who are camping, and I thought it'd be a great time to get the lowdown on this buck that he continuously talks about, that he was chasing a few years ago, that ended up scoring 189 inches, and come to find out he was poached. So I kind of want to hear the story, and I kind of wanted you guys to hear the story too, because it's a good one. I hope you get a few chuckles out of this one, because it's kind of funny and quite interesting, to say the least. So we jump right into it here. Hope you guys enjoy. The main reason why I got all this podcast stuff set up for you today, Ruckert, is because I want to hear the story of your target buck that got poached. And we're going to lay it out there today. We're laying it out there.
We better stop at the bar if we want to do this.
So let's push rewind. Your first encounter with this deer, like
Monte?
Yeah.
That's what we named him. I think, God, that must have been, 2016, I think?
Okay.
It was end of season in winter. I bought these cheap Tasco cameras, actually. I said, whatever, I'll leave them out during the winter on video. But it was right before the season was over. I also got a picture of probably a 180-inch. I don't even know. He's ended up being an 18-pointer, but at that point, he's probably 14 points. And then from there on out, my off-season was pretty one-track minded, if you know what I mean.
So you had those cameras set up, like, describe where you had those cameras set up. Was it on a food source, or what was it?
That year we did, we got a 6-acre field there. I did 2 acres forage beans, which were still holding pods somehow. And then 2 acres regular beans, and then I did 2 acres of corn.
So you had forage beans and then regular conventional beans.
Yeah.
What did you notice the difference between the two?
Giant difference. One, the forage beans were twice as tall. I didn't fence anything off. They were just out there wide open. But the forage beans were twice as tall and probably twice as many pods on them. And they lasted a long time. They were still eating them in December.
What did you do for fertilizer on that field? Anything?
I think it just was a triple 10.
So it was triple 19 or 10 or something?
Something like that.
Okay.
It wasn't nothing fancy. I just went to the local hardware store, the co-op. That's what they prescribed me, so that's why I just...
Huh. Okay.
But
so you think he was going to that then? Those beans, or?
He was definitely coming out to beans. That's where I got my video of him. Right on the end. There was a big scrape tree there too. So I'm not sure. There has been there's quite a bit of late ruck activity over there. I don't know why. I also shot a buck there the year before, the last day of season, chasing a doe, rutted up. So possibly doing some little rut activity, possibly hitting the beans. But nonetheless, I got a sweet video of him. And then all my off-season focus went up to him for the following season.
What would you say he scored when you had a picture of him?
Right there, he's right around 180, I'd say.
Yeah, there's just tines coming everywhere.
It was God. I remember that very minute I seen that video. It's a perfect video, too. He stands in front of the camera, turns his head, looks at the camera, looks away from the camera. It was something.
Yeah, I was actually just looking at that video today, and it's just a wall of tines. And on the hoof there, even late season there, I mean, he had to be all of 220 field dressed.
I gotta imagine.
He was
perfectly symmetrical. Just a good-looking buck.
So going into the off, how about sheds? I mean, did you go shed hunting at all?
Went shed hunting. Out there, shed hunting's very difficult. A lot of big swamps, a lot of big woods, a lot of big bedding areas. So, I thought I had it narrowed down to where he was bedding just because, I don't know, it's just what I kind of thought. But ended up not finding any sheds of any sorts out there, actually. So the next year I focused hard on food plots. The same big food plot. This season I put black oil sunflower seeds, forage beans, and corn that year. And the black oil sunflower seeds, it was crazy how well the deer liked those.
At what stage did they like them?
It was getting to be right around, I can't remember. I got a bunch of pictures. It was in August in there.
Okay.
They were always in there in August.
Okay. So I was actually talking to my neighbor about, there's some plots that he was looking at to get some type of screen protection, and I mentioned sunflowers, and I don't know how fast those grow. And
they grow pretty fast, and if you plant them together, they get pretty thick. So it would be not a terrible screen idea.
Sure, yeah, and it's just a matter of when we're going to get that first frost. We're kind of looking that 60, 70 day out. I mean, you're in September already, past September, and we've seen frost in September already, so it's always a gamble on what you're going to do. But so they like those sunflowers.
Yep. So it was middle of August, I believe. And I started putting my cameras out in July, trying to get on them. I had freaking, 10 cameras out there. Hope he walked by. It was middle of August, remember, he started showing up. And then he started showing up almost every other day.
So you had velvet pictures of him?
I got a couple velvet pictures. I wish I had the memory card saved somewhere where I put every picture on.
Sure.
But then he disappeared a little bit on me, so I didn't really know what was going on. And then it was, I believe, about mid-October, he showed back up. And he showed up within a half hour at dark every night, just after dark. So I got getting pretty pumped up. I think it was right around the 20th of October, I seen him at about 100 yards. And I don't think I would be able to shoot him anyways. I was pretty worked up at 100 yards. A lot of times.
So he was obviously bedding really close to that food source.
At that point, I believe I got on. I knew right where he was bedding. It was right in the neighbors. They come up, they hunt the first day rifle, and then they leave. So that's the only time they're ever up there. There's a nice little chunk of pines in there, is where I was kind of assuming he was bedding. He kept coming from there. They're about, 300 yards off our line where he was on camera every other day. And then it got to be end of October. And he was starting to play mind games with me. He ended up bedding in front of my camera for about 2 hours. And it was, I got probably about 150 pictures of him just moving his head. And then I started getting a little rattled. Started taking a toll on my personal life too. So I ended up hunting pretty hard there a week or two before rifle. Meanwhile, oh no, this is my different buck. As I say, I thought the landowner was selling the land, but that's the year after. I'll tell that one later.
Ish.
But it was the Thursday before rifle. I was sitting all day. I was sitting probably about 200 yards away from the food source. Well, it was about 45 minutes, I'd say, before dark. All of a sudden, here he came. He was 30 yards from me, standing behind a big old tree, bunch of willow brush. At 30 yards he stood there. Oh my! Stood there, didn't move one time. As almost like he could sense me. Up until dark, he stayed right there. Couldn't get a shot. Couldn't do nothing. Just sat there and stared at. I could see his antlers flickering around in the willow brush. But there he just sat. And then I had to wait 45 minutes after dark before I heard him move. Before I even got out of the stand. And that was, like I said, the Thursday before rifle, I believe. So now I also did have rifle permission here, so then I was coming back hunting pretty hard rifle. I think I hunted all day opener and that Sunday. Didn't see anything. Well, I seen some nice ones, but obviously my mind was on him. And then I think I went to South Dakota during the whole week, which I shouldn't have, but I did. Came back following weekend. It was Saturday, didn't see nothing. Sunday, I decided to go way deep into the swamp. So now I'm about a mile and a half back in the swamp. And
so why did you make that move into the swamp?
Because I felt like he wasn't coming to the food anymore. I didn't get any pictures during rifle of him. Obviously, I was a bit paranoid he was shot. So I'm like, maybe he just hunkered down deep in the swamp. We got to get back there. Because it's notorious for big bucks back there.
Yeah.
And usually that's where I like to hunt. But seeing as he's been on camera that close, I figured stay close. But since he wasn't showing up, I said, might as well go back there and see what happens. Seen a good buck actually that night, chasing some does around. Never got shot on him, but never seen him. And then started making the trek back up to the house after dark on the last day of rifle. Takes me about an hour to walk back there. As soon as I get to the house, I heard a gunshot. I said, oh, I knew from the direction it came from, and knowing the neighbors around that area, it was not a good feeling when I heard that gunshot.
Oh.
So I went in and talked to the homeowner, the landowner, for about, half hour, 40 minutes. Come back outside. It's well past dark this time. I hear 2 more gunshots over there. I said, oh, Jiminy Crickets. So thought nothing of it, whatever. I went home, went to work next day. All of a sudden, DNR called me, I believe on that Tuesday, asking me if I know anything about this big 19-point buck that got shot. I said, oh, God. I said, well, send me a picture. He sent me a picture, and sure shit, it was him.
Oh, man.
I said, well, all I can tell you is I heard 3 shots well after dark over there. He said, well, we got 20 phone calls on this buck, so
Oh, boy.
we're trying to crack down on it. But, yeah.
In your mind, when you heard those gunshots, were you assuming immediately that he was poached?
100%. I don't know why I felt that way, but I knew just from a general idea of where I thought he was bedding. Even though I didn't have any pictures or didn't see him on rifle, I had a feeling it was him.
Yeah.
And, of course, it was.
So you get the call, DNR, asking if you had any information about it. They had a lot of people call in. So then what? What ended up happening?
DNR started cracking down on him, as far as I'm concerned, and then they ended up couldn't really get any evidence against him. And then it was actually the following year, right before bow season, there's a Facebook post on Minnesota Bow Hunters saying, put your bucks on here and everybody will score them. Well, I was actually seeing that guy put Travis Call, texted me and said, hey, that buck that you were after was on Facebook. I looked it up quick, and sure shit, it was on there.
Oh, God.
The guy was bragging about it. I said, I got
man.
a little salty for a second there.
Yeah.
I said, I'm pretty sure that buck was shot after dark. And he ended up confessing right on Facebook that he definitely shot it after dark.
No way.
Yep, so I sent it to the DNR. I screenshot sent to DNR. He said, holy Christ, I can't believe you said this.
Oh, my God.
I went over there, and I don't know what ended up happening, but
Oh, my Lord.
I've had troubles with that neighbors in the past.
It is so frustrating.
It's very frustrating.
Well,
I'd be fine and dandy if it shot him legally. It's just
right. Thing is, like, you invest all that time and effort to give yourself a fair fighting chance at shooting a deer of a lifetime, and then somebody just becomes a lowlife and shoots it illegally.
shot it right off the road with his pistol, the DNR told me.
That's the word, huh?
Yep.
How much money did you invest into hunting that year?
God, not only did I invest money, my relationship went straight to the rocks. My personal life was bad. I invested, I can't even imagine the amount of time I invested. I had cameras everywhere, the food plots, the seeds. Oh, I hunted religiously that year.
It's an addiction.
It was bad. It took over my life.
I know a few other people out there that are single just because of the sport of hunting.
I'll be honest with you. I'm not going back to relationship. I'm marrying this.
I'm dedicated.
This is the life.
Oh, my brother Mark, I think he's had a few relationships already, and they kind of came to an abrupt end as soon as they weren't fans of hunting.
Hey, I don't ask much. Just leave me alone.
Just leave me alone come October through December, and everything will be fine.
I think that's fair.
Oh, my Lord. Yeah, it's a fun time, and for me now, I used to be a psycho along, with yourself. I mean, we were talking the other day through text, right? We were talking about, should a guy buy land out of state? Should he invest, say a property comes for sale, next to you. That's a good property, right? Do you invest a bunch of money into this property to maybe shoot a nice deer every now and then here in the state of Minnesota, or do you save that money and go on out-of-state trips? You know what I mean? Like, is it worth?
The older I get, I do get big into. I enjoy being outdoors and working on the land. My buddies are big into it too, so it's kind of fun that way. And it would be rewarding, but it'd be very hard for me to buy land here hoping to kill big bucks. Unless I knew the past of the land. Like the land I hunted, I would definitely bought that one.
I think the biggest thing is, and I know Jason mentioned this when I was talking to him, he works for Whitetail Properties, you really have to know your neighbors before you go and buy property.
100%.
And sometimes, properties sell and whatnot, and then all of a sudden you might have different neighbors that step in that have a different goal in mind. But the biggest thing is neighbors. If you can have a good group of neighbors that are all kind of on the same page and striving for a common goal, I think it'd be really beneficial.
It can turn your deer population around quick.
Big time. But all it takes is one landowner to kind of throw everything backwards and hit the reset button. But it's tough. I've been debating that too, because I always keep my eyes open for properties that come for sale and whatnot. But it's like, is it worth investing that much money into another property here in the state of Minnesota? I think it's all dependent on where it is and who your neighbors are and so forth. But
I'm personally, obviously, I'm a big out-of-state lease guy.
Yep.
Just because if it ain't good, you can always stop doing it. If it is good, hopefully you get a nice relationship with the owner and keep doing it.
So tell me a little bit about that lease population or process.
Because
a lot of people out there don't lease and they've maybe thought about it before. Tell me about some of your leases experience. How's that work?
Going on, there's a nice page on Facebook, HRLBO. They always have hunt leases on there, and that's a good way to find them. I personally, my cousin went out to Illinois and made good relationships with a bunch of people in a bunch of different states. So that's how I got my Kentucky and those kind of leases. But like the Wisconsin one and stuff, looking in those, that's all on Facebook, HRLBO.
HRLBO. What's that stand for?
Don't even ask me. Hunting something.
Hunting rights. I don't know. Okay, so now when you do this, is there a written agreement for amount of years? Or
there's a big contract. It all depends on the landowner. A lot of, like one time, so we had discussed it with the landowner before we went down there to look at it, but me and my buddies went to Kansas. Drove, I don't even know, 14 hours to go look at his land. Well, we get down there just to find out he's still going to rifle hunt it. So you do got to do some homework before you just jump in a vehicle with some buddies and drive 14 hours to go look at land. But other than that, yeah, it comes down to a couple contracts. Like the one contract is yearly that I have in Kentucky. The Wisconsin one's like a 3-year ordeal. So it all just depends on the land and the landowner.
How successful have you been on those leases?
The Kentucky one I shot one last year. It wasn't no big one, but sure was fun. Wisconsin one just got into it this year. It seems like it's going to be pretty legit.
You get some decent pictures.
Yeah.
Kentucky opens up fairly early, doesn't it?
That I don't know. I do know it goes late, so that was more the reason I got into it. Obviously, I don't have much time in the early season hunt, so I looked more into the fact that it went through mid-January.
Okay. So
the plan was to go down there mid-January, but just ended up going down there during our rifle this year and shoot one then.
So Kentucky must be over the counter then.
Yeah, we went right to Walmart right before that. But you get a buck and a doe tag for like $250. And the weird thing about Kentucky is it doesn't matter the season. You just have to buy a deer tag. You can kill it during any season as long as you have that deer tag.
Okay.
So I could have rifle hunted with that tag. I could have bow hunted.
I've heard people talking about that here in the state of Minnesota. Like, if you just buy a license, you can use any weapon throughout that entire year. I mean, I don't know. I don't know how the deer population can sustain itself with, like, I don't know, you got a high-powered rifle out there all year round. Yeah. I mean, the success rate's got to be through the roof. I mean, I'd be curious to see what Kentucky's deer population looks like.
Them Kentucky boys a little different. There's some definitely big-time poaching going on down there back in the draws and hollers. The hollows, as they like to call them.
The hollow. There's some big deer down there, though.
Oh, there's some big deer down there.
That's insane. I know.
It was weird for me to hunt, too, in mid-November, sitting over a green bean field. It was strange, but
I know there's one guy that I know that we're actually going to go work for today. He has a little different philosophy than probably most of the people out there that are listening to this podcast. And, a lot of us like shooting big bucks, so we hold out for big bucks. But he's got a different philosophy. His philosophy is he shoots the small bucks to make room for the bigger bucks, and then the big bucks come in.
Does it work?
They got some good deer on the wall, but I think but they hunt a pretty big section of woods and timber and swamps and all that stuff. So there's a lot of good deer up there that I think get by and get some good age.
But there's one thing I learned. I never talk back to a guy who's got a better wall than me.
You can't. What do you say?
You can't.
You can't say anything. But yeah. No, So the other thing I was going to bring up, being we're talking regulations here, party hunting. And I've been wanting to throw this out there on social media just to kind of see what people think about party hunting, because I know Iowa has just gone away from out-of-staters, non-residents party hunting. I don't know if residents can still party hunt or not in Iowa, but I believe they just went away from non-residents being able to party hunt. Party hunting in Minnesota has been accepted for as long as I can remember. It's probably always been that way. And obviously the big thing is to try to control the deer numbers. But our deer numbers are obviously at a point now where they're not as high as they used to be. And, is that something that maybe the state should look at getting rid of? It's funny because I listen to a lot of podcasts and I hear a lot of people talk about different rules and regulations. Like North Dakota opens on Friday. What is it? The first? It's the first weekend in September, yep. But it's on that Friday. But it doesn't open until noon on that Friday. It's like, where do people come up with this stuff?
I don't really know. I don't understand that one either. But I just know that's the rule.
Out east, no hunting on Sundays.
That one's crazy.
Massachusetts, right? I think it's Massachusetts. Yeah,
yep.
You can't hunt on Sundays. Like
that one's crazy.
Sooner or later, people need to take a step back and say, okay,
what are we doing?
What are we doing here? Let's use some common sense here, and to sit there and stuck in your ways year after year after year because this is the way we've always done it. Well, is that the right way?
Well, that's why I'm glad they finally allowed you to track wounded deer with dogs finally instead of just letting deer suffer out there.
Should we still be riding horses and buggies because that's the way it used to be? You know what I'm saying? We should still be riding around horses and tilling up fields with Clydesdales.
Adapt. You gotta adapt.
It just blows my mind that we can have some of these rules and regulations still in place because that's the way it's always been, and we can't mess with tradition and all that stuff. Well, sooner or later we got to figure it out and use some common sense here and ask ourselves, is it really worth having this rule in place? But the party hunting thing is something I wanted to throw out there and just kind of get kind of a public viewpoint on party hunting and if people still want it around or not, because I don't know, I think it'd be interesting to see what people will say, because believe it or not, the average age of hunters, I mean, it's changing throughout the years, I mean, the old school style of hunters, they're up there. Some people might not be hunting anymore. Some people have passed on, whatever, and technology has changed. The older generation of hunters out there, they didn't have trail cameras back then. They didn't know what type of deer were out there unless they were shining or whatever. But you have an idea what deer are out on your property, yep. But you don't know for sure.
I do miss the shining days.
Yeah, those were pretty intense.
Oh, I love doing that.
Sitting there with your hand out the window freezing at midnight.
Every night we do it.
Yeah, those are some good times. It's usually when you saw the biggest bucks, it was about midnight. But yeah, I don't know. I'm just curious to see what the state has to say, and you look at how these rules are put in place in the first place. It comes down to politics, and if one person has a lot of pull, well then guess what? I'll be darned. I don't like Thursdays, so we're not hunting on Thursdays anymore. All in favor? Aye. Okay, let's move on to the next thing. It's like
that's the way it goes.
Let's just flip a coin and throw it out there. But yeah, I don't know. So, anyways, going back to kind of close up your poaching story here. So you don't know if anything ever come of that?
I do not know what come. I was actually going to contact DNR and find out if anything came about it.
Sure.
But I never seen it on the Wall of Shame this year down at the Deer Classic. So
he would make it.
Fun fact here: this little hardware store. You've ever been in there?
No, I haven't.
That guy's got about $20 over 160 in it.
And what's the name of it?
Right here, Ace Hardware.
Oh, I was looking at the Mexican Bar and Grill. I think it said Monte on there.
Right there.
I'll have to check
Next
it out.
time you're Staples, folks.
I'll have to check it out. Oh, shoot.
But yeah, no, I should look into that because it's extremely frustrating. I just tried moving on from that part of my life, to be honest with you.
So you had a decent buck going after that year. It gets poached. And then the next giant you had on camera.
So I got this old landowner.
Yep.
Old guy, old school guy. I was all depressed about this buck getting poached, and he came at me with his dumb old wisdom that I just didn't even want to hear. Once one monarch falls, another one shows up. I said, yeah, Louis, whatever. And then all summer he kept telling me, there's a big non-typical out there. I said, well, I did have my eyes on about a 125 inch for the drop time. I said, yeah, I see it. It's not that big. He said, no, this one's big. Now, mind you, this guy's got 204 on the wall and a 184. So obviously someone knows what he's talking about. But I discussed this with you that year.
Yep.
And I said, yeah, Louis, I seen him. He's about 125. He said, I'm telling you, he's way bigger than that. I said, whatever. Well, lo and behold, he was about to sell that chunk that year. So I had people on camera steady walking back there looking at the land. I said, well, this is a waste of time. All of a sudden, as I'm flipping through the people pictures, here comes just a mega. He was, he had drop tine, he had stickers, he was probably about 15 inches tall, probably about 18 wide. He was massive. I said, oh, this is not difficult he's talking about.
He wasn't bullshitting.
No, he wasn't bullshitting. So the year after Monte got poached, this one showed up. I named this one Bender just because so fact of whether I shot him or not, I was going on a bender. That deer, I hunted hard. I actually screwed up big time on that one. Me and Travis, again, we were getting ready for North Dakota. I think it was the week before Thanksgiving. It was a Friday. I said, I should probably go out there and hunt. Let's see what happens. So I ended up being late, so I just hunted behind my house. Seen about 120 incher that night. So excited about it. Well, as I was sitting in my stand, all of a sudden my camera went off and sent me a picture of my phone. Take a look. There he is, 20 yards from my stand, half hour before dark, nose down, chasing a doe. Just standing there, making a scrape on a tree and all. So I should have.
You cracked a cold one.
I don't even want to think. And, he disappeared. And then next year, I seen him one time the next year. I remember telling you, I had a nice buck coming out every night. But I was, again, focused on this big one.
Yeah.
Ended up going to South Dakota during rifle. Well, some old guy sitting in his overalls, burning a hot dog over a bonfire, shot a midday Wednesday. Ended up scoring 207.
Oh.
Yeah.
Was he with a doe or just?
I didn't even want to ask the guy. Through my phone, haven't looked to talk to anybody since. This guy would have shot the first fawn that walked out. Hasn't shot a buck over a 5-point his entire life.
Oh my
Now he's sitting at the local bar every night telling everybody how to hunt.
Yeah. That's that the way it goes.
And I'm there with him listening.
He was probably smoking a cigarette too.
We did. So third week of rifle, me and my buddy decided we were going to go up north. And we weren't seeing deer. I said, that's it. I grabbed a hot dog and a pack of cigarettes. Well, it did not work. Didn't see a deer. I had a bad throat after that.
It worked for him. We got to try it.
Who needs deer pee when you smoke some spirits?
I was actually listening to a podcast the other day, guys. Actually, it was a video I watched. A guy was sitting there putting a dip in, and all of a sudden here comes a mega, and he's trying to put his dip in as his buck's coming in. He must have spelt the wintergreen or something.
Ask your brother.
Oh, my Lord.
Your brother's a big believer.
He's sitting there doing the post-interview, freaking chow all over in his teeth. Like, Jesus. But, yeah, 204. My gosh. That dude wasn't lying. Louis wasn't lying.
He was not lying.
One monarch falls.
He also told me he seen a Sasquatch across the road, so I don't even know what to believe anymore.
You got to listen to the old folk, man. They know what they're talking about.
He's given me some tall tale secrets over the years that have worked.
Anything that big running around this year?
Not yet. Like I said, I got to get my cameras out.
Oh,
but
sure.
I got a couple decent ones running around. Nothing to brag home about just yet. But should be a pretty fun year this year. I can't wait.
I made this statement this past winter. I don't know. The first year I got on cameras, I don't know. I would say, I don't know. He's probably going to be 115, somewhere around there. But I'll have some bucks that are bigger than him. I think that whether it's in the section that you're in or the section over, there's at least a 140 running around that you have an opportunity to hunt. If he's in your section or the next section over, you're in the game.
It's going to happen at one point.
And when you get those monarchs that come around, like you were just explaining, you got to hold out for them in my mind. I mean, even if you eat tag soup, at least you're giving yourself a chance to go for that. And in my mind too, like that's why I kind of I would love to see party hunting go away for that reason from a management standpoint, because how many guys have been out there, they go out there and they shoot, the little 6-point.
Yeah.
But then all of a sudden they see that there's a big buck running around. They go back out there because their buddy has a tag or their kid has a tag or their wife has a tag. And then they go out there and, try to shoot, another deer. It's like, man, if you just had one tag, I think people would be a little more particular on what they wanted to shoot. And in return, the deer herder is going to benefit from that. But this is the way it's always been. That's the way it always is going to be,
The way it has to go. Just like our rifle season.
Yeah, that's a whole nother story. But this year, our rifle season pushed back, which is nice. We're going to get that whole first week of November to archery hunt.
That will be nice.
So that'll be huge.
I am leaving right after that. I'm not sticking around to watch this rifle season.
I think I'm going to be in the same boat. I've been hunting my property, up here by myself, and it's like, you know what? When the state gets flooded with rifle hunters, I think it's
a sanctuary.
Just leave mine as a sanctuary and get out of Dodge and go hunt someplace else, because there's still good hunting to be had, but once that Orange Army hits the fields and the woods, deer behavior changes and everything, and you're sitting here trying to strategize on how to kill a deer, and then it's just flipping a coin, going out there and sitting in a stand and see what happens. But no, I'm hearing more and more people here in the state of Minnesota that are not buying firearms license anymore, and they're just strictly bow hunting. And I have done that the last 3 years, I think. Travis has probably done it the last 8 to 10 years probably. And you know what? I'm cool with that. And you know what? I tip my cap to those guys. And one of the big reasons, people want to sit there and criticize bow hunters and, well, you got all this time to kill all these deer. They're not even going out and buying a license to make life easier for themselves to shoot deer.
Yeah.
That's, as a bow hunter, it's about the challenge of putting an arrow through a mature deer or a deer in general. It's a challenge of shooting a doe. Oh. It's not just bucks. It's a doe too.
A lot of does in my day.
It's, and that's what we like as bow hunters, is just the challenge. And I think, a big reason why, they're saying, the firearm numbers aren't there what they used to be. Well, there are some of those hunters out there that just aren't buying firearms license anymore because they're just bow hunting, and I'm one of them. So I don't know. I tip my cap to those people out there that do that, and if you are one that still, hunts with a firearm, props to you too. I care less what you do, but that just shows the sport of archery and how addicting it is to want that challenge of running an arrow through an animal, and being up close and personal is probably the best part.
See, in rifle hunt, to me, I grind all year. Hunting gets very hard. I like, the big part of rifle for me is the opening weekend. The whole family comes over. We all have a great time Friday night playing cards and stuff. Everybody's hungover, going out Saturday morning. That's why I don't even care about hunting for the first 2 days.
Mm-hmm.
But then after those 2 days, we lock back in. That's when we leave the state.
Yeah.
So that's what's important to me during rifle.
And it is, and you got to keep that going because I'm sure there's hunters in your camp that are young.
Yep.
And maybe
we lost a couple over the last couple years.
Yep. And
it gets real when you start paying attention to the fact you're losing hunters.
Yeah. It's I don't know. It's a one hell of a sport, put it that way. Like all the memories that you can create, and anyone can do it. Anyone can do it.
I love going out and seeing old wooden stands built up in trees too.
Mm-hmm.
Just making up my own stories that they told.
and yeah, that's part of the reason why I love filming, because my kids, my wife, my friends, and everybody will be able to see, the experience that I had, and I get to relive it too. There are times I'll go back and just find one of my hunts and kind of relive it and like, oh yeah, that's right, that happened. I forget all about it. I got a real short-term memory and just kind of relive all that good stuff. But yeah, I don't know. It'll be an interesting year. We've had great growing conditions. We'll see what the bucks do. I'm really anxious to see.
Had a good winter last year.
Yes, very mild winter. Plenty of acorns last year.
Yeah.
One thing I did notice, Ruckert, this last week, I haven't seen any acorns on white oaks this year. I think it's the reds and the pins might have some, but the white oaks, I haven't seen a single acorn on a white oak.
Because last year they were everywhere.
The one thing I did notice, though, there's an area that has very dry soil, we'll put it that way, and I saw acorns on those white oaks. And I think the reason why, this is just my theory here, so like where I'm at, there's a lot of more clay, moisture in the soil. The spot that I saw these acorns on these white oaks is very dry soil. And I think these white oaks are used to that dry climate, and they can handle those droughts better than the trees that are in these different types of soil, black soil, clay, whatever, where they're struggling after last year. But these other oak trees, these white oaks that I saw in this dry condition, they're doing just fine because they're used to that.
Yeah. What are the apples doing? Has your parents' apples been dropping yet?
Yeah, yep. I've picked up a few pails already, put it that way. And there's one apple tree that has produced every single year, and Mom and Dad are going to actually take some of those seeds and get those seeds going.
It's impressive. I heard a lot of people are not having luck with their apple trees.
No, and this thing is just full. It's the biggest one they have, and it is just full. There's a guy I mow lawn for, too. He's got plenty of apples, so I've been getting apples from Mom and Dad, and then also one of my clients that I mow his lawn. So, yeah, actually, one of the reasons why I didn't meet you guys at Steve's because I had to run out and put apples out. Minnesota finally allowed feeding deer here, so we've been throwing some apples out for the deer and whatnot. And I know I have an apple tree on my place, and that thing didn't produce anything this year. So get them a little extra vitamins out there, throwing some apples out there for them. But we'll see what happens. Other than that, I don't know. Oh, I wanted to ask you one more thing that we forgot about on that podcast that we did this past winter. You mentioned that you are pro coyote.
Oh, yeah. I was pro coyote.
I want to hear this story on why you're pro coyote.
We last day in North Dakota. I don't even know, mid-January I think it was. Miserable out. -20, blowing of course, because North Dakota, why not? Sitting by this farmer, had a big old beet pile out there. I said, well, when in Rome, I'm going to sit by this beet pile. Ended up shooting a pretty damn nice buck. Thought I smoked it. We heard it crash I was sitting with my buddy. We heard it crash to some thick woods. All right, well, he's got to be done. About 5 minutes goes by, and these coyotes are howling already, right where he went down. I said, oh, God. So we gave it probably about, I don't know, half hour, 45 minutes. Said, well, let's go in there and get him before the coyotes get him. Because the coyotes kept howling, but their hollows were moving about every quarter mile, it seemed like, about every 10 minutes. Well, we get in there, start tracking blood. Deer's nowhere to be found. Ended up tracking this deer for well over a mile. Not great blood either. I don't know what went on with that. But it was deep snow and stuff, so you know it crystals up when it hits the snow. Mm. But we're getting down the end. We've been tracking for 2 hours. We're way back in the swamp. All of a sudden, we can't find much blood. There's coyote tracks everywhere. I said, this isn't looking good. Finally, we're just starting to do circles now because we can't find tracks or blood. End up seeing where coyotes are ripping out fur from something. I said, well, it's only one thing that could happen. Well, lo and behold, they had him tore up. It was probably about an hour and 20 minutes after I shot him. They had him completely, besides wasting my meat, they were the reason I found my deer. So I was pro coyote there for what? But I said, besides the fact I didn't get to bring home any of the back quarters, it's crazy what those things can do.
Yeah,
short amount of time. They were on that deer within 5 minutes and just stuck with them.
Yes. Yeah, I know I found a buck one time, the velvet one that I shot. It was hard quartering away. Where'd you hit yours?
I ended up putting it through. He was quartering away a little bit. He ducked. It went through his shoulder and came out his brisket.
Okay.
So he eventually would have died. His whole shoulder was broken, but he took off running hard.
Yeah.
He didn't slow down, didn't bed down once.
And the thing
I
is,
suppose he can't when you got a bunch of coyotes.
well,
on you.
yeah, and when he finally ran out of steam, that's when the coyotes got him. But the thing is, you start tracking him right away. You're probably not going to find that deer if you stay on him.
No, and I wouldn't have tracked if it weren't for coyotes howling.
Right.
And our last night in North Dakota.
Yeah, that makes a difference too. I shot a buck in velvet one time out in South Dakota, and it was a hard quartering away, and I thought I made a really good shot on it, but it needed to be probably one more inch to the left, and it would have been just dynamite. Anyways, we tracked it, and what it ended up being was stomach, liver, one lung is what I ended up getting, and could tell by the footage and the blood that kind of needed to let this deer go overnight. And the next day we found him, and coyotes kind of had his hind quarter ripped up, and found him in a creek with his head held above the water from a branch, like he must have got his antlers caught in a branch or something. So it kind of preserved the velvet on him. But yeah, it's just one of those things where, do you jump on the track and get going right away, or do you wait a little bit? The coyote's going to get him. Well, if you got time, if the coyotes get him, But if you jump on their track too soon, you're just going to keep pushing that deer and never catch up to them. But
I'm big pro on waiting, especially with the dog situation now, where you can get dogs and stuff. There's really no reason to push it.
Better to be patient. Hey, look at there, 12-point stands. J&R Outdoors, we're driving by some stands right now. We see some of your guys' stands. Those are so sweet.
Those are nice
looking. Those tinted windows.
I bet they are nice.
Oh, my Lord. Yeah, just make sure they're not clear plexiglass. You'll run an arrow right through them. But, I'm looking forward to getting that stand. I put it out on a different property. It's not on mine, so I didn't get to hunt it as much as I wanted to. But somebody's got to kill one out of there this year. That stand's too nice not to kill some deer out of. Tell you what, though, you can have a good time with bringing some people up in that stand. I know Thomas brought a few people in his stand already.
Yeah.
And I think this last weekend they had a little shindig out in that stand, didn't they?
It seems to be our new hobby, just going to this deer stand, just sitting there drinking.
That's what it's about. But I suppose we better start focusing on our job coming up here. Looks like the weather's kind of breaking here a little bit, so that's nice. We're going to be grinding up here, guys, while everybody else is working their jobs back at home. We're going to be up here at We Fest. It's not an easy task. If it was easy, everyone would do it. You know what I mean?
Would. I got the stomach pump ready.
IV bags. All right, you guys. Well, thanks for tuning in. And until next time, we'll catch you later. Be safe and get those food plots taken care of. And, hunting season's almost here. So we'll catch you guys later. Thanks, Rucker, for helping me out today.
Yes,
we'll get after it. All right, guys. We'll catch you later. Well, I hope you guys enjoyed that little road trip podcast. I've heard the story before, but I wanted you guys to kind of hear the story as well. I mean, it's just frustrating when you sit there and chase a target buck and you put so much time and effort into it and, end up scoring 189 inches and come to find out he was poached. Nothing more frustrating in the hunting world. And hopefully those people get what they deserve when it comes down to it. And, it is what it is, I guess. But once again, thanks you guys for tuning in this week. And, we appreciate all the support. Like I said, we've been hearing a lot of good feedback from you guys. So if you continue to leave positive feedback, we'll continue to try to bring more content to you guys in the future. So, give us a subscribe on YouTube and like all of our social media pages. And, we appreciate everything you guys do. And also we appreciate all of our partners. We have Arctic Shield, Domain Outdoor, J&R Outdoors, Skullcraft, The Fish Guide, Tech Cam, and Fourth Arrow Camera Arms. We appreciate you guys tuning in. Until next time, have a great day.